Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Hands on Books. This show is meant to be a fun and creative extension of my book buying addiction. So instead of leaving all of my books stacked unread all over the house, I am doing this. Over the last several months, I've been buying books as usual, but I haven't been opening any of the packages. As you can see, I've got a pretty good stack going here. So I know roughly what is in the stack, but I don't know which package is which, and most of these are going to be used books, and I won't know the condition of those, so it's going to be a little bit of a surprise for me too. I've written some notes on topics that I know are going to come up, but I'm not an expert on any of these subjects. So the main goal of the show is to attempt to share the experience of the books themselves. If this is something that you like or you end up liking, please subscribe, and thanks for checking out the show. All right, guys, it's been 3 months since I've gotten to open a book, and I'm really excited to finally get into this. So I've got my wife here. She's going to pick a book at random for me from the stack. Okay. Finally. I've been going through serious withdrawals. Okay. A Voyage to Arcturus by David Lindsay. I remember researching this one, and he's a Scottish science fiction author that wrote in the 20s and wasn't very successful in his lifetime, but he had an impact on C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. And he's one of the... I like finding early science fiction, and ones from the 20s sort of interest me because you get this interwar flavor where like Stapleton has this, where if you're writing in the 20s and you've just been kind of traumatized by World War I, then all of a sudden you have a lot of poison gas, and a lot of the inventions that come from World War I start creeping into the science fiction. So let's see a little bit more about this. First of all, I like this art. So this is a Ballantine copy from 74. And let me pull up my notes for this one just to see if there's anything I forget. Yeah, I was probably looking up early science fiction when I came across this one. Powerful, stark as the wild dream landscape of Arcturus it so beautifully describes, it makes a tremendous impression on the mind. If I remember correctly, this story is about an interstellar voyage of some sort. Let's see how it smells. It smells great. Let's read the first page, see how it goes. Chapter 1, The Seance. On a March evening at 8 o'clock, Backhouse, the medium, a fast-rising star in the psychic world, was ushered into the study at Rolland's, the Hampstead residence of Montague Fall. The room was illuminated only by the light of a blazing fire. The host, eyeing him with indolent curiosity, got up, and the usual conventional greetings were exchanged. Having indicated an easy chair before the fire to his guest, the South American merchant sank back again into his own. The electric light was switched on. Fall's prominent, clear-cut features, metallic-looking skin, and general air of bored impassiveness did not seem greatly to impress the medium, who was accustomed to regard men from a special angle. Backhouse, on the contrary, was a novelty to the merchant. As he tranquilly studied him through half-closed lids and the smoke of a cigar, he wondered how this little, thick-set person with the pointed beard contrived to remain so fresh and sane in appearance, in view of the morbid nature of his occupation. "Do you smoke?" drawled Fall, by way of starting conversation. "No? Then will you take a drink?" "Not at present, I thank you." A pause. "Everything is satisfactory? The materialization will take place?" "I see no reason to doubt it." "That's good, for I would not like my guests to be disappointed. I have your check written out in my pocket." That's a pretty good first page. So for the fiction books that I'm going to be opening, I really haven't tried to research that much about the topics because I do intend on reading these at some point. So I don't want to spoil it for myself or anyone else, but that is Voyage to Arcturus by David Lindsay. I'm definitely happy with this one. I usually only get, it doesn't really look like it's been read, maybe crunched a little bit, but as far as quality goes, I'm perfectly happy with like the $6 or whatever I paid for this. Okay, on to the next one. Hey guys, before we leave A Voyage to Arcturus, I did want to read the teaser because I think this will give a better understanding or a better idea of what the story's about. Wandering alone on Tormance, the one inhabited planet of the star Arcturus, the hero of this remarkable story cries, "I must make up my mind that this is a strange journey, and that the strangest things will happen in it." And the strangest things do indeed happen in a book that is at once an engrossing fantasy and a profound metaphysical fable. Maskell is transported to the Arcturan planet, where a series of mysterious adventures cause him to undergo countless physical transformations. The people he meets, some frightening, some spiritually beautiful, are like none on earth, and their behavior is like that of no mortal Maskell has ever known. Gradually, Maskell becomes aware that his journey is the journey of a human soul, caught in a death struggle between good and evil. Okay, a Thrift Books one. All right. So, The Murder of Herodes by Kathleen Freeman and Other Trials from the Athenian Law Courts. Let's get this sticker off. It always bugs me that Thrift Books does this. A lot of times if you're getting an old book, this will really rip up the whatever's on the binding. And this is one of those things that the faster you do it, the worse the result is. Let me check my notes for this one. So I got interested in Athenian courts. I can't remember why, but this seemed like a good source book for information about the way they used to run their basically dispute resolution system in their society. One of the most interesting things about the way that their courts worked to me was, or had to do with the fact that you didn't have to tell the truth. There was no penalty for lying. You did have to present your own case. So in the sense, there weren't like lawyers that you could go hire, but you could hire a good writer to write your case for you. And there was no chance for anyone to, or put it another way, the case has to be settled that very same day. So there's no chance for anyone to go run and fact check you or anything. You have to have all of your rebuttals in your brain, and you have to know the facts of the case and whatever other, I guess, case law you could call it is applicable just off the top of your head. So your opponent can just outright lie, and if he is convincing enough to, or yeah, if he convinces the jury, then he wins. It doesn't matter if he lies. And if it's found out that he committed perjury later, there's no, the way I understand it at least, and maybe this will clarify stuff, but there's no punishment for lying in court. And that sort of plays into, well, I could be wrong about this too, but in my mind, it plays into the notion of sophistry that predated, I guess, Socratic and post-Socratic philosophy, where the main thing that the sophist teachers would teach, or maybe not the main thing, but one of their main concentrations was rhetoric. So that involves being able to convince people of what you're trying to convince them of, which is directly applicable to settling lawsuits in courts like this. So this was originally published in 1963. And I think I have another book in this stack by Kathleen Freeman. But this copy's from, well, maybe the 90s, 91. So I'll read and comment on the quality. I mean, it does look like it's been read, but I wouldn't expect to, or I would expect to run across this book in like a college course of some sort, but it doesn't smell very good. It's not old enough to smell good. But let's read the first page. Every trial is a drama. No matter who are the persons involved, whether important or obscure, no matter what is at stake, whether a man's life or merely the possession of a plot of land or a sum of money, there is a struggle which is of absorbing interest to the actors, and a decision to be taken which closely affects them. In the law courts of any country and any age, human nature as it really is, not as we would like it to be, is clearly and minutely revealed. The passions of men, their hopes, desires, and fears, their baseness, and occasionally their nobility. Selfishness, cruelty, avarice, lust darken the picture. But to cheer us we have the gleam of courage, and above all the presiding genius of justice, the desire to live and make others live harmoniously together, and law, the instrument by which all social progress is achieved. It is therefore no mere interest in a dead past that makes us turn to a study of any nation's law courts and the business that came before them. It is essential to our understanding of that people and that society, and will add something to our knowledge of human nature as a whole. In studying these trials from the law courts of ancient Athens, we find several additional appeals to our interest. Foremost should be placed the brilliancy of the period itself, this little city-state, which produced so many of civilization's highest gifts in politics, poetry, science, history, architecture, and the whole art of living, rose to the height of its prosperity and fell into dependence during the period that is covered by the lives of the speakers represented in this book. But apart from this general consideration, there are at least two others which give these trials a special value, and claim for them a wider attention than that of scholars only. In the first place, they are a corrective to the sentimental idea that everybody in ancient Hellas was absorbed in the quest for truth and beauty. Athens had no newspaper reports. These speeches, embodying true stories from the lives of ordinary men and women, give us a background to which we can relate the achievement of the great poets, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, the great statesmen, Aristeides and Pericles, the great thinkers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Through a knowledge of this background, we can better understand the material with which the statesmen had to deal, the audiences for which the dramatists wrote, the society about which the philosophers generalized and which they wished to reform, and so we can better assess the amazing quality of their work. That's my kind of topic right there. I love this sort of thing. Because you're going to get a ton of history mixed in with the actual, the actual granular information about these trials themselves. What might be more important is the information that it gives you about the daily lives of these people, and what it says about the people themselves and the way that they present a case this or that way. So this had been on my list for a long time before I actually bought it, and I'm happy to finally have it. So that is The Murder of Herodes by Kathleen Freeman. And let's move on to the next one. I wanted to come back to this one very quickly because, we're learning as we go here, and I keep forgetting to talk about things that I intended to. So we started to write down some bullet points, so maybe I won't forget this sort of thing. For instance, I didn't even talk about who Kathleen Freeman was, so I figured we should give her her due. Kathleen Freeman received an M.A. and D.Lit. Doctor of Letters degrees from University College Cardiff, Wales, and was for many years lecturer in Greek there. She published a dozen studies in Greek history and literature, some 30 novels and detective stories, several children's books, and many other volumes. And I also wanted to read the back of the book, which I intended to do. Transcripts of trials once held in Athenian law courts reveal, as no other source of information we possess can, how ordinary citizens of Athens lived and behaved. The 15 cases presented in this book encompass quite a variety of human behavior: murder, assault, property damage, embezzlement, a contested legacy, illegal marriage, slander, and a question of civil rights. They not only eloquently bring to life again an astounding people, but also happen to be works of art, thanks to a provision in the Athenian legal code requiring all litigants to address the court in person, instead of through a lawyer as we do today. So that's what we were talking about. Those unskilled in forensics engaged orators of known ability to write their speeches for them, and the resulting briefs prepared by such men as Lysias, Antiphon, and Demosthenes are frequently masterpieces of lively narrative and subtle argument. Dr. Freedom has translated the speeches brilliantly, inserted explanatory notes to make the course of each trial as clear as possible, and provided several chapters of background material on the professions of law and rhetoric in Athens. These remarkable documents are the first recorded instances of the working of a democratic jury system under a definite code of law aimed at cheap and equal justice for all citizens, a principle which has remained a foundation of Western civilization ever since Greek times. So that's sort of rehashed more professionally what we already discussed. And the only other thing, I wanted to just talk about the trials themselves, at least from the table of contents. So we have 4 trials for murder, including the titular murder of Herodes, 3 trials for violence, 4 trials concerning property, a trial concerning civil status, a trial concerning sacrilege, which I'm sure that one's probably really interesting, a trial concerning marriage, and a complaint of slander. Okay, so I just didn't want to forget covering that stuff, and we'll get on to the next book. All right, next book. Okay. Making sure I don't cut into anything that I don't want to. Oh god. That's going to be annoying to clean up, but that was to be expected. Alright. Okay, I was hoping I would get to open this one today. not sure if people would want their stores talked about online or not. I suppose they would, but I don't want to break any rules. So, this is the life of Ramakrishna by Romain Rolland. And Ramakrishna is this, depending on who you talk to, he is a holy man or an incarnation of God or something in between. And I've been interested in him since, let me pull up my notes real quick for him. I've been interested in him since finding a YouTube channel run by this guy, Swami Sarva Priyananda, who is the head of the Vedanta Society of New York. So Sri Ramakrishna was a man who lived in India in the mid-1800s, and he's, one of these figures that had he been born here, or here in the West or in the United States or something now, he'd probably end up in a mental institution. Or if he would have been born then in the United States or the West, he would have been possibly institutionalized. But he's one of these fascinating Christ-like figures that really had an effect on people in the sense that they believed he was a literal incarnation of God. And whereas with Christ, obviously we have a much larger gulf of time between now and then. So what I really find interesting about Sri Ramakrishna is that there's only been, 150 years have passed since he was alive. So we have a lot of different first-hand accounts of him that I think, and I just think that aspect of the fact that all those stories exist really brings the character to life, and I'm excited to learn more about him in general. And Rolland seems like a very interesting guy in himself. I'd never heard of him before I bought this book, but he won the Nobel Prize in 1915 for literature, I'm assuming. Hold on. Yes, in 1915 won the Nobel Prize for literature, and he also wrote a biography of Swami Vivekananda, who is one of Ramakrishna's most famous disciples, and was really instrumental, or maybe even one of the first people to bring Advaita Vedanta to the West, and began that process of introducing Hindu philosophy to the Western world in the late 1800s, I guess that would be. So let's just look at a little bit of this book. So this is already, it's been wrapped up. These people at the bookstore that sent this obviously cared a lot about getting the book to me in good condition. So that's always something that I really appreciate. So let's check it out. Ramakrishna, the Man Gods and the Universal Gospel of Vivekananda. Study of mysticism and action in living India. So here's a picture of Sri Ramakrishna. Translated from the original French by E.F. Malcolm Smith. And it looks like this may have been actually printed in Calcutta, although I'm not really sure. Yeah, set and printed in India. In 11-point Baskerville type. So this is the 7th edition, printed in 1965. I love this. This is so cool. I love getting books from different countries. the dedication here, to my faithful companion in this pilgrimage of the soul, my sister Madeline, without whom I should not have been able to accomplish this long journey. Romain Rolland, January 1929. Very cool. The paper's very thin. I like that. Might be most fitting to read Rolland's preface as opposed to the first page. He's got different prefaces for Eastern and Western readers, which is interesting. I've never seen that before. Okay, this might actually be more interesting. Let's read the first page of the prelude. I shall begin my story as if it were a fable. But it is an extraordinary fact that this ancient legend, belonging apparently to the realm of mythology, is in reality the account of men who were living yesterday, our neighbors in the century, and that people alive today have seen them with their own eyes. At the date when this book was being written, in the autumn of 1928, the following direct disciples and eyewitnesses of Ramakrishna were still living. Swami Shivananda, the abbot of the Central Math or Monastery at Belur in Calcutta and the president of the Ramakrishna Math and Mission. Swami Abhidananda, Swami Akhandananda, Swami Subodhananda, Swami Vijnanananda, Mahendra Nath Gupta, editor of discourses with the master under the title The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, Ramlal Chatterjee, Ramakrishna's nephew, not to mention more lay disciples, whom it is difficult to trace. Back to the text. I have received glowing testimony at their hands. I have talked with some among them, who were the companions of this mystic being, of the man-gods. And down to the second footnote. The plural is used to indicate that Ramakrishna was, or was to believe to be, the incarnation not only of the divine essence, but of the other gods. And I can vouch for their loyalty. Moreover, these eyewitnesses are not the simple fishermen of the gospel story. Some are great thinkers, learned in European thought and discipline in its strict school, and yet they speak as men of 3,000 years ago. The coexistence in one and the same brain, in this our 20th century, of scientific reason and the visionary spirit of ancient times, when, as in the Greek age, gods and goddesses shared the bed and the board of mortal man, or as in the age of Galilee, when against the pale summer sky the heavenly winged messenger was seen bringing the Annunciation to a virgin, who bent meekly under the gift. This is what our wise men cannot imagine. They are no longer mad enough. And indeed, therein lies the real miracle, the richness of this world that they do not know how to enjoy. The majority of European thinkers shut themselves up on their own particular floor of the house of mankind. And although this floor may be stored with libraries containing the history of the other floors inhabited in the past, the rest of the house seems to them to be uninhabited, and they never hear from the floors above or below them the footsteps of their neighbors. In the concert of the world, the orchestra is made up of all the centuries, past and present, and they all play at the same time, but each has his eyes fixed upon his own stand and on the conductor's baton. He hears nothing but his own instrument. But let us listen to the whole splendid harmony of the present, wherein the past dreams and the future aspirations of all races and all ages are blended. For those who have ears to hear, every second contains the song of humanity, from the first born to the last to die, unfolding like jasmine round the wheel of the ages. There is no need to decipher papyrus in order to trace the road traversed by the thoughts of men. The thoughts of 1,000 years are all around us. Nothing is obliterated. Listen, but listen with your ears. Let books be silent. They talk too much. I love that. I'm super excited to read this book. Let me see if there are any illustrations or anything in here that would be cool to show. Looks like it's got a foreword by Gandhi that I missed. Gandhi says, "The story of Ramakrishna Paramahansa's life is a story of religion and practice. His life enables us to see God face to face." Oh, we got a little, I don't know what that is, a burn mark or something. Maybe not. I have no idea. Could be a burn mark. Yeah, this looks like it's in really good condition. Again, who knows? It's definitely not heavily read, at least. Yeah, if you're interested in these sorts of figures, like Christ, then I would definitely say that it's worth checking out someone like Sri Ramakrishna, because like Rolland says, it's so recent and so relatively current and seems almost alien, but I love that they still make saints and holy men in India. Okay, that's the life of Ramakrishna. Let me smell it before we go. Ooh, this one smells great. I love it. And let me see how much I paid for this one. So this one was $17, which I think is plenty worth it for this cool book. All right, thank you very much. There are a few things that I wanted to mention about each one of these books before I close out. The first one is this really cool art. I wanted to mention that the cover artist is Bob Pepper. And I don't want to forget to mention cover art when it is cool like this. I love this dragon. I don't know what that antenna is, but love it. And I thought this one was $7, but it was actually $12, and with $4 or $5 shipping, and they had packed it nice. It was advertised as fine quality, which I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it's fine, but it's definitely not heavily read, so I'm perfectly happy with that purchase. This one was advertised as like new. The Murder of Herodes was advertised as like new, and it's definitely not, but at least the pages are unmarred. So for $7.50, including shipping, I'm perfectly happy with this one too. The Life of Ramakrishna, definitely the coolest one that I got today, in my opinion. This one cost, what did it cost? $17, including $6 shipping, and they packed it really lovingly, so I appreciate that. And I also forgot to show y'all how it looks without the paperback. So I always love these old hardbacks. Not sure. I might try to get that off later, but I don't know if I want to mess it up. Anyway, it's a really pretty little hardback from, how old was it? $58 years ago. And all of these were bought on Abe Books, even though this one came in a Thrift Books wrapper. Anybody who's familiar with Abe Books know that Thrift Books sells a ton of stuff through there. All right, guys. So if you're still with me, I want to say thank you so much for sticking around this whole time. This has been a really fun project to work on and super exciting to see it sort of come to fruition like this. If this is something that you like, please consider subscribing and share it with your friends. As you can see, I never stop buying books, but we still got a lot to go here, and hopefully we'll have a new episode in a week or so. So again, thank you so much for watching, and happy reading.